And when those expectations in your life change, especially in ways that you never anticipated, it can create a kind of heartbreak that people don't always recognize as grief. Because part of you is still holding on to the life that you once imagined. And letting go of that imagined life can be every bit as painful as letting go of something that actually did happen. Hi, my friend. Welcome to the Bounce Back Black Woman podcast. I'm Dell, and I've overcome some of the most devastating heartbreaks I could ever have imagined. Do you find yourself stuck in sadness after a broken heart, asking God, why me? Well, I'm here to help women just like you heal and build the resilience to overcome life's greatest hurts. If you long for joy and confidence again, this podcast is for you. So grab your headphones and those heartbreaks. Let's talk. Hey there, my friend, and welcome back to Bounce Back Black Woman. This episode is part of a short series that I'm calling the Many Faces of Heartbreak. And in this series, we're exploring the different ways that heartbreak shows up in our lives and how healing begins from each of those. Today, we're talking about a kind of heartbreak that isn't always visible on the outside, but it is always deeply felt on the inside. And that type of heartbreak is what I'm calling dream heartbreak. It's the kind of heartbreak that comes when life does not unfold the way that you thought or hoped or dreamed that it would. Now, when we think about heartbreak, most often we think about relationships. But you know what? Some of the deepest heartbreak that we experience has nothing to do with another person. Sometimes it comes from the life that we imagined and the reality that we're living. So what exactly is dream heartbreak? Dream heartbreak happens when expectations or hopes or plans don't unfold the way that we believed that they would. It's that gap between what we imagined and what actually happened. Sometimes that gap is small, but sometimes that gap is life-changing. And it can show up in so many different areas, my friend. Career paths that didn't work out, financial goals that never materialized, relationships that didn't lead where we thought that they would, and life timelines that never, ever aligned. And many times this kind of heartbreak doesn't come with a clear-cut ending. There's no moment where somebody actually says, this is over, or this is the end. Instead, it unfolds gradually, confusingly, quietly, over time. So I want to talk a little bit about the invisible nature of dream heartbreak, because that's what makes dream heartbreak so complicated. It's often invisible. There's no ceremony for it. People don't always know about it, so there's no formal acknowledgement. There's no clear-cut space to grieve. But I want you to know that that doesn't make it any less real. Because when a dream changes or simply disappears, there is still something that we need to process. So I want to talk about the emotional and behavioral impact of dream heartbreak as we start to figure out how to process it. Because dream heartbreak can show up in ways that we don't always recognize. There's no name for this in our society necessarily. You might feel stuck. You might feel unmotivated, disconnected from your own life, and or uncertain about what's coming next. You might find yourself comparing your life to others, or at least the version of their lives that you can see, that they allow you to see. You might be wondering, why didn't things turn out that way for me? Or quietly asking the question, did I miss my chance? And those thoughts can be heavy, my friend, because they're not just about what happened. They're also about, and maybe even more so about, what didn't happen. And when those expectations in your life change, especially in ways that you never anticipated, it can create a kind of heartbreak that people don't always recognize as grief. Because part of you is still holding on to the life that you once imagined. And letting go of that imagined life can be every bit as painful as letting go of something that actually did happen. Many people reach a moment in life where they look around and they realize something quietly painful. Life turned out different, not necessarily worse, but different than the picture that they carried around in their mind at one time. And sometimes that realization doesn't come all at once. Sometimes it shows up in small moments over time. A conversation, a milestone that didn't happen, a season of life that looks different than what you had expected. And over time, those moments begin to add up. Maybe certain doors closed for you. Maybe opportunities never unfolded the way that you had hoped they would. Maybe timing never aligned in the way that you prayed for. Or maybe life just simply took a direction that you never planned for. And when any of those things happen, my friend, it can create a quiet kind of grief, one that's not always visible to other people, not always spoken out loud, but very, very real. And it's real because part of you is still holding on to the life that you had once imagined. And part of you is trying to reconcile that with the life that you're actually living. And that tension can be emotionally exhausting and heartbreaking. I've experienced that in my own life. There have been seasons where I had a very clear picture of how things were supposed to unfold, what I thought my life would look like, how certain things would happen, and when they might happen. And I had to come to terms with the reality that life was taking a completely different path for me. And that realization wasn't always loud or dramatic. Most times it was quiet. But what I know is that it was deeply emotional. Because I had to let go of something that I had already begun to believe in. And I think that's the part that most people don't talk about out loud. It's not just adjusting your expectations. It's grieving something that felt real to you, even if it never fully came to life. And for many, many women, one of the most deeply personal places this kind of heartbreak shows up is in the area of motherhood, around the dream of motherhood. And for many women, that heartbreak takes different forms. For some, it might be the pain of a longing that was never fulfilled, the deep desire to become a mother, and facing the reality that it didn't happen in the way that they had hoped, or maybe it didn't happen at all. And that kind of heartbreak is often very quiet because the world doesn't always recognize it as grief. The world doesn't even recognize it at all sometimes. But it is grief, because it's not just the loss of an experience, it's the loss of something deeply desired, something imagined, something prayed for. And for many women, that absence just doesn't simply go away. It hangs around, it lingers, it shows up in unexpected moments, in conversations, at events, maybe one of your best friend's baby shower, in milestones when people are celebrating their little one's 5th birthday, in the lives of others. And it can carry a weight that is very hard to explain to someone who has no experience with what you're feeling. The second form that it can take is a path that began but didn't come through. For many women, the heartbreak comes from a path that started out with hope but didn't come through. Fertility journeys that didn't work. Adoption processes that fell apart. Moments where it felt close, like you could reach out and touch it, like it was finally happening. And then ultimately, it didn't. And that kind of heartbreak can feel especially difficult because hope was already there and expectation was already building. And then all of a sudden, something shifted, and the thing that you thought was finally within reach was no more. The third way that it shows up is in decisions that are made in difficult seasons. You see, for some women, the heartbreak includes reflecting later in life on decisions that they made during seasons when they felt overwhelmed or unprepared or simply unsure of what the future held for them. I want to be real here for a moment, because this isn't just something that I've observed. It's something that I've lived. There were seasons earlier in my life where I made the decision to end a pregnancy. And at the time, those decisions were shaped by where I was, what I had capacity for, what I understood about my life in that very moment, and what I believed that I could handle. My friend, those decisions are not always simple. I can tell you from personal experience. They are often made in complex, emotional, and sometimes overwhelming circumstances. But what I've come to understand is that those decisions don't always stay in the past. Sometimes they come back, not always as regret, but as reflection, as questions, as moments of wondering what life might have looked like under different circumstances. Sometimes they come back as a special way of helping to guide others who are walking those shoes many, many years later. Those reflections are not always one single emotion. They are layered, and they can be complicated. They can include understanding and curiosity, and sometimes even a quiet sense of grief in their own way. And I share that because I know that I am not the only woman who carries that kind of reflection when it comes to their motherhood journey. Because the truth is that many women carry thoughts and questions and emotions about motherhood that the world around them never fully sees. And quite honestly, sometimes never really wants to fully see. I also want to say something that's important to me personally. As I have reflected on those seasons of my own life, I have come to understand something about my relationship with God. I don't believe that God condemned me for the decisions that I made at that time. And I say that not from a place of theory, but from the life that I've lived since then. Because I know that I've experienced God's grace. I've experienced growth. I've experienced blessings that I know I didn't earn. And one of those blessings was becoming a mother in a season that was aligned for my life. And for me, that has shaped how I understand God. Not as someone waiting to punish me for my past, but as someone who walks alongside me, walks with me, walks before me, and one who meets me in my humanity, because he created me in my humanity, and who continues to guide me forward. And I know that everyone's spiritual journey is personal and varied, but that's the truth that I have come to hold. Now, if you listen to this podcast, you know we always ask this question, and you can probably say it along with me. Why does it hurt? Dream heartbreak hurts because it touches hope. It touches your very identity. And it touches the life that we believed we were building. And my friend, when that shifts, when that changes, when that disappears, it can leave us feeling ungrounded, like the earth is crumbling beneath our feet that we thought was steady and stable and trustworthy. But heartbreak does not mean that your life has gone off track. It really doesn't. Sometimes it means that your life is unfolding in a way that you never expected. And that doesn't mean that it won't still be meaningful. So I want you to know this. If you are navigating dream heartbreak right now, or if you've ever navigated it and packed it away for later, and you know it's still unpacked, here is something that I want you to reflect on. 2 questions. The first one, what version of my life am I still holding on to that I may need to finally release? And the second, what possibilities might still exist that I haven't fully considered yet? My friend, just because life didn't unfold the way that you had imagined it would, does not mean that your life has lost its meaning. It may simply mean that your story is still unfolding. And so if today's episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it with someone who might need this message. Leave a review so that the woman who needs to hear this can find this podcast. Because as I always say, it's not just you. It's not just me. It is us. Well, that's it for today, my friend. I really hope this episode inspired, encouraged, or just plain comforted you. If so, please share it with a friend who might be struggling in her own healing journey. And if you take a moment to leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts, you'll help other women find encouragement through their heartbreak. Remember that God is holding your hand along this journey, and guess what? I'm holding the other. Life is short, so bounce back, Black woman.